Jamie Dornan in tears. Seeing her with him was too much. The London night was colder than usual. Rain fell lightly on the windows of the old Kensington High Street café, where Jamie Dornan sat quietly in a corner, his untouched cup of coffee in front of him. Over the years, he had learned to hide the serenity of his smile, the same smile that had melted hearts on screen. But tonight, it was gone. His eyes were red, and his heart was broken in a way no acting role could have prepared him for. Because just hours earlier, he had seen her again. Dakota Johnson. And she was not alone. The moment that changed everything. They met by chance, or perhaps by a cruel twist of fate. Jamie had been invited to a private charity event at the Royal Academy of Arts, an event he would normally have attended with his wife, Amelia Warner. But Amelia was in Los Angeles, working on a music project, and he was there alone. He hadn't expected to see Dakota there. They hadn't seen each other in months. The last time they'd met, it had been tension and silence, a careful dance between politeness and distance. But that night, when he walked into the marble lobby, she was there. Her laughter echoed through the crowd, soft and warm. She was radiant, her emerald dress catching every glimmer of light. And beside her was a tall, confident man, his hand resting lightly on her back. Jamie froze. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. It was like time stopped, a witness later told Hollywood Insider. He saw her, and everything inside him collapsed. You could tell he was trying to keep his composure, but his face said it all. Dakota ignored him at first. But when their eyes met across the room, the world seemed to quiet down. Eyes that had shared 1,000 emotions on screen now said only one word: goodbye. Behind the camera, beyond the script. It had been years since 50 Shades of Grey ended, but the bond between Jamie and Dakota was something neither could fully explain, or avoid. What began as a working friendship had blossomed into something almost deeper. They understood each other in a way no one else could. Behind the camera, between takes, in the quiet moments of exhaustion and laughter, something had formed. But life has its limits. Jamie is married. Dakota is trying to find herself in a world that demands perfection. They walk the thin line between affection and distance, until it breaks. A close friend of Jamie's once said, "When you spend so much time pretending to love someone on screen, you start to forget where the line between fiction and real feelings lies." Jamie would never admit it in public, but everyone around him knew. He cared about Dakota beyond work. And seeing her tonight, happy, radiant, with someone else, was a pain he didn't know he still felt. Private breakup. After the event, Jamie left without a word. He walked through the London rain for nearly an hour, his jacket soaked, his mind racing. A few fans recognized him and tried to approach, but he politely waved them away. Later that night, he found himself in the same café he used to frequent during the filming of 50 Shades of Grey. It was theirs. She used to order chamomile tea, he always teased her about it. Now, the chair across from him was empty. "I thought I was over it," Jamie confessed to a friend later. "But seeing her with you, I couldn't bear it." His phone rang a few times, texts from Amelia, from his agent, but he ignored them all. What could he say? That the man the world saw as strong, handsome, and confident was sitting alone, silently crying over a relationship that could never work out. Dakota's side. On the other side of town, Dakota had no idea of the emotional storm she had caused. The man with her that night was Chris Martin, her longtime boyfriend, who had just returned from tour. They had recently decided to go public with their relationship after months of speculation and distance. She had no idea Jamie would be there. Then, when the photos were released, Jamie's eyes, the tears he tried to hide, she reportedly broke down in her own way. She still cares about him, a close friend of Dakota's revealed. They went through something very stressful together. No matter how much time has passed, that connection never completely disappeared. For Dakota, it wasn't about rekindling old feelings. There was respect, nostalgia, and a quiet sadness for what might have been. She knew Jamie's heart better than anyone, and the thought of hurting him, even unintentionally, pained her. Public reaction and media frenzy. Within 24 hours, paparazzi photos of Jamie leaving the event in tears were everywhere. Daily Mail, People, News, everyone had the same headline. Jamie Dornan breaks down, the moment he sees Dakota Johnson with new love. Fans flooded social media with words of support and heartbreak. He's not over her. That look, the ultimate pain. Some stories don't need a happy ending to be true. Others defended Amelia, reminding the world that Jamie was a husband and a father. But the touching truth was undeniable. Something broke that night, revealing a side of Jamie the world rarely gets to see. Behind the headlines, his team went into damage control. They released a statement denying any emotional breakdown, insisting Jamie was simply tired after a long day. But the tears on his face in those photos spoke louder than any PR words. Confession. A week later, Jamie agreed to a discreet interview for a charity feature in The Guardian. Aware of the buzz, the interviewer hesitated before asking, "Jamie, there are some very emotional photos of you after the royal event. Would you like to clarify what really happened?" Jamie smiled slightly, sadness still lingering in his eyes. "I met someone who means a lot to me," he said quietly. "And, sometimes when the past and the present collide, it can be overwhelming. I'm only human." He didn't mention Dakota by name, but he didn't need to. The world already knew. The rest unsaid. In the days that followed, Jamie stayed out of the spotlight. He spent more time with his daughters, quieter mornings at home, more walks along the Irish coast. But even in those peaceful moments, there is a shadow, the memory of what was, and what can never be again. Dakota also seems distant in public appearances. In an interview promoting the new film, when asked about 50 Shades and her relationship with Jamie, she smiled wistfully. "Some experiences stay with you forever. They change you, whether you want them to or not." That's the closest she's come to admitting it. Part 8. Unfinished chapter. A few months later, at a film festival in Venice, the two met again, this time as professionals, not ghosts of the past. They exchanged polite smiles, posed for group photos, and kept their distance. But observers noticed the look in their eyes, a quiet understanding. "He still looks at her like she's the only person in the room," one journalist whispered. "And she still avoids his gaze," another added. Life goes on, but their story, though invisible, is not over. As Jamie leaves the film festival, a reporter calls out, "Jamie, any comments about Dakota Johnson?" He turns, smiles gently, and says, "She's doing great things. I'm proud of her. I always will be. A love that never needs a name." There are loves that exist in silence. Loves that never bloom, but also never fade. For Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson, it was a bond that existed between them, a bond that defied time, fame, and circumstance. He once said in an old interview, "Some people touch your soul and never let go." Now, looking back on that chapter of his life, perhaps he understands. It was never about possession. It was about memories. Because sometimes the hardest thing about love isn't losing someone, it's seeing them happy with someone else, and realizing it was meant to be. And on that rainy night in London, when Jamie whispered through tears, seeing her with him was too much. He finally understood that heartbreak was just another name for love that still lingered.